Stacy. It's really good to see you all. I have another special guest that I neglected to sign her in. We have Carolyn Tumbleson. She serves as the Director of Development, Jones College. She's visited with us before, so please welcome Carolyn. And now, it's my pleasure to introduce Dean Joyce T. Heems. She is the Dean of the Jennings A. Jones College of Business and Professor of Management. She came to MTSU from Berry College in Rome, Georgia, where she served 7 years as the Dean of the Campbell School of Business. She holds a BS and an MBA from Samford University and earned her PhD from the University of Mississippi. Heems is a member of Beta Gamma Sigma and Phi Kappa Phi. She also serves on the board of Southern Business Administration Association, and she is an active Rotarian. Dean Heems' primary area of research is counterproductive work behavior, but she also explores leadership, conflict resolution, and the history of managerial thought. She has more than 35 years of experience in business and in education as a trainer, teacher, facilitator, and college administrator. As a popular speaker and trainer, she has delivered programs on topics such as conflict management, generational gaps in the workplace, the value of diversity, and creating high-performance teams. Please welcome Dean Heems.
She upset me with that 35 years. I gotta take that out of there. Let me have a pen. That's fine. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I'm at home. I've been a Rotarian for a long time, so this means a lot when I get out and to speak to fellow Rotarians, because I feel like we're of like mind and spirit, and that means so much. So you've made me feel at home again today. I was asked to speak, and what did I want to talk about, and I decided to choose a topic that means a lot to me. Something that says that we don't have to let our past define us, and how can we then move forward. So I've created the topic of our past curate our future. And what do I mean by that? Or according to one's taste. I want you to keep that in mind as we move through. Charles Swindoll said, we are all faced with a series of great opportunities brilliantly disguised as impossible situations. So I wanted to spend just a couple of minutes and share my story, just so that you would get a sense of where I'm coming from and how I grew up a little bit, but also how I have chosen to curate my present and my future. And I've said this a couple of times. I've lived in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and now Tennessee. And I have never felt more like I was coming home than I have been in Murfreesboro. It has just welcomed me, it's put its arms around me, and it really has been. I feel like I have been spending my entire life getting ready for this position as Dean of the Jones College of Business, as I'll talk about in just a moment. And so as I look back on my past and what things have happened, the good and the bad, then I had to make some choices with that. I was born in Guin, Alabama. Anybody know where Guin is? I usually don't get an answer on that. Every once in a while I get one in the audience. We'll find out later how you know where Guin is, because it has it's infamous, so let me tell you. But Guin is a little small town on Corridor 22 between Birmingham and Tupelo that goes on into Memphis. We lovingly say we have a population of 1,500, but that's on Saturday when everybody brings their cows, pigs, everybody to town. Very small town. Got married when I was 15. I wasn't pregnant. I was like that disclaimer there. But I was getting out of a family situation. Went on and finished high school on time. It took me 8 years to get my undergraduate degree. I'm not a slow learner. But it's called life. and it's called Raising Babies and Working Full-Time and doing a lot of other things. It then took me 4 years to get my master's degree. And yes, I can do the math. You're supposed to do the undergraduate in 4 and the master's in no more than 2, 8 and 4. And then at the age of 43, I had the opportunity to pursue my dream, which was to get the PhD. My son, my baby, graduated in May of that year, and I got him out of college, got 2 kids out of college, and then I went back to Ole Miss. So you're never too old to pursue any dream. So I got to get the PhD. But along that way, I ran a business, training and development business. I got was a Dale Carnegie licensed instructor for a long time. I ran my own training company, which will be important in a few minutes. I continued to do in academics. I began to research in workplace bullying and incivility, which was key to my development as a professor. All of those things just came into play. I had to start out in a community college because I couldn't afford to go straight to the school of my dream. And so I was a transfer student. Close to 50% of MTSU students are transfer students. We love to be called the college of destination of choice for students. I was a first-gen student. Remember that little small town that I came out of? I know the bumps in the road that it's very easy for people to stumble over to get out of those small towns. Over 46% of our students at MTSU are first-gen students. I know the things that we have to do and we can ever gear up. So what I've told you is my true story. And I did not let that past define me. I was determined. Now, my brother will probably tell you, one of my biggest fans, I claim, he will tell you that it was tenacity and stubbornness all kind of rolled in together. Probably a bigger dose of stubbornness than anything else, because I've always been told that if I couldn't do something, I'm pretty much going to do my best to accomplish whatever I told. Because I had $200 bet against me the day I got married at the age of 15. So you'll never finish high school, much less ever get to go to college. But so, stubborn me went back when I finished high school and I collected my $200. And I used, and this is going to tell my age, I used that $200 to pay my first registration for a course in college. We have to make sure that our past doesn't define us, that we pick and choose the strengths and the things that come from that to curate our future. Let's look at businesses for a few moments and some of the things that have happened and how they may have chosen things that have along their way in terms of curating their future. Walmart, we all know what happy hour is. Some of us perhaps a little too much. But happy hour, they came up with early hours. And they said that the retired population, those in the elder, needed that special time in the morning where they go in and get their food and things be spread out enough that there wouldn't be crowds of people in there. How many of you knew that Cracker Barrel was the first to actually come up with curbside service, curbside pickup? Talk about redefining, taking a bad situation and saying, let's turn that around and let's still serve our people. Forbes gives us this list of businesses that thrived during COVID. And we all know how bad. Because we had a fear of germs more than anything else. Delivery services, grocery stores, liquor stores, they probably didn't need anything else with which to boost their business, but they started using the alcohol and the liquor in hand sanitizers during that time. Talking about picking up on something in what could have been a failure and making it into a success. Game companies, we were all home, and so they really got online with their games and talked about providing entertainment. Fitness equipment, which we could say probably has had a downturn now that the pandemic's over because we're no longer home, but there was a lot of purchases of it. I have no stats on how much of that fitness equipment was actually used, but there was a lot of it bought during that period of time. Tutoring services went virtual. We in academics had to make a major shift in how we handle classes. And a lot of faculty get in to become professors, not because they want to teach online, because they want to see students eye to eye. They want to see those aha moments in the classroom. And so for them to shift to online was difficult, but education in particular. I thought it was interesting, used car market, because people didn't want to make the long-term commitment to new cars. So talk about booming, to the point where you could not even buy a used car. It was so gone from the marketplace. And then tech companies, definitely we were working at home. So these companies, these industries, all saw opportunities from the past, and let's build on that and let's move forward. Charles Darwin said, it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, thank goodness. It is the ones that is the most adaptable to change. Our past doesn't define our future, doesn't define, because we choose the parts of that makes us better, whether it's personally, whether it's in business, whether it's as Rotarian groups. We're always changing and improving how we're serving in our philanthropic ways. We curate the future. So how do you curate your future, personally or professionally? Well, one, you got to dream big. I am very fond of, people ask me all the time, how do you say your name? Heems. And I say dreams. Heems dreams. Because I believe in dreaming big. It's the only way we can get beyond those small humps in the road that really keep us down sometimes. Work hard. There's nothing that's going to supplant working hard for what we want in life. And I tell students that all the time. If you will be the hardest working person, you will go as far as you want to go. You've got to surround that with other things, but you've got to work hard. Stay focused and surround yourself with good people. In business, we can. And I will tell you that my staff, my faculty at the Jones College is phenomenal, just phenomenal. I could not have been as successful. I've been here right at 100 days, working days. And so they have just been fantastic to make us go forward in the future. And then I would say that you got to innovate. There's a small company in Menlo, Georgia. And I love its tagline. On its sign outside, it says, always innovating, never imitating. Isn't that cool? I just love that. And I think that's who we should be. We should always be innovating ourselves and never trying to imitate someone else. So how do we at the Jones College of Business, just want to spend a moment or two telling you about that, through this, my philosophy of engage, elevate, and empower. Everything I do, I look through those lenses. I wanted just to highlight a couple of things that we're doing, because I think we are building on past failures and successes and helping us curate a different future for the Jones College. We're revamping the MBA. It's been 15 years since it was really revamped. It had become, you know how things morph over time? Might take 14. It was a little confusing to the marketplace, and we want to make it sure we're relevant. So that committee has worked so hard. It's going to be 30 hours, plus an opportunity to do a concentration if you want to. All 3 credit courses. Everybody's going to take the same 10 courses to get that 30 hours, plus 1 if you do the accounting extra course. And then an opportunity to concentrate in stuff like cybersecurity, AI, leadership, human resource management. We're talking to schools across campus about creating concentrations with them, MBA or MS in management with a concentration in them. So we may at one point, we're talking about with, I love it with the education, to have education administration, or in concrete management. We're looking at aviation is already on board. They're putting together their concentration. So it'll be an MBA in aviation management. We're launching an Exec Ed Center. We've had one and had 4 or 5 workshops every once in a while. We would run through that. In the spring, we were going to have 20 on the books. Next year, we're going to have 30 on the books fall, 30 on the books in the spring at least. And we want to become the premier training and development center for Middle Tennessee. And we can do that with the reputation of MTSU and the wonderful talent that I have in the Jones College of Business. Their repertoire of courses they can teach are just phenomenal. So we're going to take that to the community and to the business world and what we've been doing in the classroom. We're establishing a podcast center. We've had one that was outside of someone's office. We're now going to elevate that and do something really big with it. Again, that wasn't a failure so much as just kind of a small start. We want to do a lot more that will help us to brand the Jones College and let people know what's going on. And we've got students that are so interested in this because they want to do the man on the street interviews. And we're going to let them do that. And then in the spring, we're going to be debuting a Young Professional Advisory Council. We have the Dean's Executive Advisory Council, which is executives that have the alums and non-alums, representing all different industries in the Middle Tennessee area. But our young professional will be alums only of the last 10 years. And they will give us a whole different perspective. You know how many times I've sat down and talked to an executive and they say, oh, your students coming out of the Jones College, they need to have this. And I'll say, well, now what of that when you were 22? Did you know? And they say, oh, well, no, not all of it. We can't give them everything they'll need, but we can make sure that their learning curve is not steep. They're going to come out and they're hard workers. And that means more to me than anything else when I can hear that graduates of the Jones College are doing that. These young professionals will tell us what they used and what they didn't use their first 3 or 4 years out. And then we as faculty in the Jones College have to take note of that. So, again, I believe that we are the master of our future. We have to pick and choose what we from our past, whether it's business or professional, and move it forward to curate our own future. So I'll be glad to answer any questions, anything that you want to know about me or Jones College, or if I don't know.
This was not in your speech. On the front page of the Wall Street Journal today, it talked about companies can't get anybody to quit work. And they don't quite have their arms wrapped around it. You know, they went through the quietly quitting. I'm not talking the back crowd, quietly quitting. But they have employees and they're economics driving it. Don't want to give any job up. But they need to change their business dynamics because this is not selling as well. You know, the businesses have to change all the time. But they can't, the attrition is, numbers are not there.
Right, absolutely. And part of that is the fear that they won't be able to get, you know, the market's really scared people during the pandemic, and so giving up a job is hard for them to consider. And unfortunately, it's a lot of times it's the ones that they want to leave that don't want to leave, and they'd love to get out the door, right? State Farm faced this back in 1997 with a major thing that they could not get their older people to quit, and yet it was keeping them from moving forward and to making changes in their business. And that's what businesses are looking forward. So they're going to have a hard time wrapping their arms around that and making sure that they got severance packages that are there, or providing opportunities. One of the workshops that we want to do is succession planning and also the on-site development for companies so they can know how to move people into the right jobs. Because sometimes they get stale in their jobs there. But you're right, companies are facing that left and right now, and it's going to be a major issue. And there's some industries, like accounting, can't get enough employees out there because they've had too many to step out because of, I think, of reputation more than anything else that is happening. And the CPA is changing in January. Have any CPAs in the room?
I was just going to say, to your point, I think it has to do with the age of the people that's not wanting to leave the workforce because they can't afford to. The cost of living is forcing older people to work longer than what they used to.
Absolutely, it is. And it's also, there's a certain age where you don't feel like you have the mobility and the opportunity. But I will say again, you're never too old to retool yourself. If I can go back at the age of 43 and get a PhD, anybody can do whatever they want to do in life. But you just have to have that push, that drive, and that someone telling them we can do it. So companies are going to have to put in development and support mechanisms to help people realize what they do.
So back to that, how is AI going to affect some of these companies, attorneys, for example, accountants you brought up, that's one of the number one fields that's
Right.
jobs are going to go away in.
Well, they're going to be remodified in a lot of ways. And with the artificial intelligence, and I'll turn to my artificial intelligence expert back here, yes, it's going to replace some jobs. Because what accountants used to do in terms of tax forms, or what they used to do in just spitting out reports, AI can do that for them. But on the other side of that is the data analytics piece, which means they've got to learn how to do that. How to learn to analyze the data that's coming out of the computer in a meaningful way for the company. So the jobs are going to morph in a different way. So I was meeting with one of our, I guess, EY, down in Nashville, and we were sitting in one of their office spaces. And he said, yeah, we used to have that building over there, and that building over there, and that building over there. And now we're in this one building, and we don't have all of it because people work from home. Their whole mechanism of how they do business. Or back in the day when accountants would go to their clients' offices, you know, they can now do everything on via telemarketing with it. Yes, then, yes. Okay, please.
I got my PhD at age 70, so,
Yes.
so there is hope. There is hope.
Yay!
That was 7 years ago, and I'm still working on in the Department of Aviation as a professor. Anyway,
Thank you.
how do you envision AI affecting your written materials, like your thesis in the MBA, for example, or other areas?
Absolutely. You know, the strike in California just a few weeks ago by the writers was all about that. It's not allowing ChatGPT and some others to write scripts and put them out of business. First, we have to recognize it's there. All right, I'm going to date myself, but how many of you in here remember when we first used calculators in the classroom? Anybody? Oh, those evil calculators. Oh, that evil technology. We can't let them use calculators. If they use calculators, they won't be able to do anything. But the transactions and everything got so complicated, we had to have it in there. How many of you remember when we started using Grammarly and at least some assistance with just writing in itself? Oh, that evil technology. Oh, those early forms of AI as we know it. We have to build it in. We have to use, the workplace is going to use it. 3 weeks after I first heard the term ChatGPT, I got an email from a person that was running a marketing firm that was on my executive advisory council where I was. They said, oh, this is great. I'm going to give this to my marketing department. We're going to turn out better marketable materials than we ever have before.
I could talk about it for a while. Like, it's going to change. It already is changing things for me in 10 different ways.
It's going to change it, and we have to accept that it's there. It's not going away. So now we have to show students how to use it ethically, and not to claim someone else's work as theirs, not to claim that they, but there's also going to be some oversight and some, I think, some regulations put in place to help garner that as well. But we can't just ignore it, and we can't be afraid of it. We're going to have to embrace it and use it in some ways and make sure that we're using it in the right ways and make sure that it's not, students understand it, good and bad, right?
I went to a thing last week where your professor over Data Institute.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Keith Campbell?
Yes.
Okay.
He was talking about AI and ways to use it in human resources. And the question that I asked him though is, he was talking about how it can be used by human resources to write job descriptions and how it can be used by the applicant to take that job description, pull it into AI, put their qualifications in, and then have AI write a resume and a cover letter that will fit that particular business. My question is, you're gonna end up with everything sounding exactly the same. You're not gonna have, you're not gonna know that person, the computer's gonna be writing everything. So you're not gonna really, and it's, no matter how many regulations you have, you're gonna have a computer talking to a computer and people are gonna go, I mean, we're gonna lose our individuality. I feel, I'm a writer though, for a living, so.
But I would counter that with one thing. I would have no problem with that person using AI to do their cover letter for me and, formatting, that kind of stuff. We use, I used a PowerPoint today that I've never used before because it gave me a format with which to do the words that I wanted to put on the screen. But if they didn't tell me that they had run it through AI or that subscript or that citing that footnote used AI, that's when I began to think there's an ethical issue with it. And that's what we've got to institute in my world. Now, my colleagues that are there in the trenches, you need to guys have one of them up here to talk to you about all of the issues with the AI and tell you every dimension of it, is that I'm looking at it from an ethical standpoint. And I want people to, you've got to use it. It's a tool that's there, but you've got to be able to bring it into, we know when you're using it and when it's really you. Because then if I put you on the spot and you can't speak to me in public, or you can't speak to me in the office, or because, wait a minute, let me see what they wants to tell you. I had, my granddaughter is a sophomore at college. She had an interesting situation with a roommate. This is a true story. And she's working from 6 to 12, my little workaholic granddaughter, working from 6 to 12 every night, and she's helping put herself through college. So she's not there when her roommate goes to bed. Honest to goodness, I saw the text. Got a text from her roommate, says, could you come home on your break, come back to the room on your break so that I can fall asleep and then you can go back to work? And she said, all kinds of bad words came in my head, Grandma, I wanted to say. She said, but I let ChatGPT help me make that friendlier. And so I went, well, okay. I had not thought about it modifying my text, but it's there. It is there for use and everything. We got to use it.
There was actually an article that just came out, and I can't remember what it was, 'cause I didn't read it, but it was talking about campuses that were having trouble with that, with kids using it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Not so much a question as an example. Some years ago, the accounting firms began outsourcing to India. And just 2 weeks ago, one of our graduates was offered a job to work in Nashville and other places to supervise the people in India, because they found that human beings need to communicate in certain ways. And one of the problems you run into in the Indian culture is that they run into a wall, and unless somebody tells them how to jump over the wall, they just stop. So they're hiring our graduates to supervise people in India. That would never have been imagined when they started outsourcing, threatening all of our graduates with unemployment.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, sir.
And I find it interesting having lived through 4 or 5 recessions over 50 years in business. There's always something new that's going to drive everybody out of business. We're still in the business, I don't care whether in education or computer. You're making a product or a service. And you're selling to somebody who needs that product or service. And that's going to stay the same now. There'll be lots of different ways. I mean, when I started MBA, we were the first year that we could use the calculators for taking the exam. But I think it's just, I'm quite hopeful because I've watched so many things come by. And
I agree.
So many end of the world scenarios being introduced. And it just park it somewhere, but figure out what you're trying to do and do it. And I'm sorry, if you do that, you'll probably be successful.
Well, and that's the reason we are training up so many wonderful professors that are learning how to use that and to speak. And again, I would encourage you to have someone come up to really give you the ins and outs of it and what the future may look like with AI. But again, I thank you for letting me be here. Thank you for welcoming me as a Rotarian, as a Paul Harris Fellow. I also understand the philanthropy of what's behind what we do as Rotarians. And just remember, we curate our future. We have to take what's there, pick the bad out, take the good, and move forward. And as a society, we will do that to make it better. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, folks. Lisa, are you giving out tickets?
Hold on, no, can't leave.
Don't leave.
Can you help me with those tickets?
Oh,
I think,
Wait a minute, we're doing just the 100s, right?
yeah, but the ones, I'm trying to get tickets that were named sponsors as well, trying to get those out.
board members, please remember that there's a board meeting this Thursday evening, 5 o'clock at Mayday. Is that right? Maybe, yeah. And
When was that?
this Thursday night, 5 o'clock, Mayday. Okay. And don't leave until Lisa gives you your tickets, but we are adjourned.